Here are the 4 things that you need in order to get your SBA loan. You need a full plan set, right? And what I mean by that is you need architectural plans, and they're usually like multiple pages, right? Just not like a layout, not a floor plan. That's like a 1-pager, but you'll need all the full plan set. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into that the architect will build out. Then you'll need your engineering stuff. You might, and this is kind of case by case, city by city. Some cities and some states are very strict and they want to see all the stuff. They want to see the structural engineering. They want to see the MEP engineering. They want to see the civil. And some are kind of looser. They're like, oh, just show me your architectural and give me a site plans approved and it's fine. The best way to do it is you actually spend money up front. And I would encourage you to do that because honestly, it's cheaper to spend the money up front because when you can show a plumber, an electrician, an HVAC guy, here's exactly the model that I want. Here's exactly where the wires go. Here's exactly the size of the conduit and the pipe and all those kind of things. Then they have certainty and they know like, okay, here's my expectation. I can bid this. If they don't know what to bid, they're going to charge you extra. They're going to put a big old buffer on that thing to make sure they don't get screwed. So just because you might say, oh, it's 50 grand or maybe 50 to 100 grand to go through and get the architect and the engineer and the civil and all that kind of stuff, man, it's well worth it because you could technically probably save hundreds of thousands by having very detailed plans going through this stuff. So the next thing is your permits. And honestly, these kind of go in a sequence of events here, right? You can't get permits until you have a plan set, right? So you get your plan set and you kind of go back and forth, right? From the architect to your engineer and all that kind of stuff. Your civil engineer is specifically someone who's working on your dirt, on your site. And then you get plans, and it might be you submitting these things. It might be your architect submitting. It might be your builder submitting, but someone's got to get approved plans through the city or the state or whoever you have to pull permits from. And then as you're doing that, you're working and you're talking to multiple builders, some type of contractor to build you your mansion, right? And the bank, specifically SBA, they want to vet these builders. They actually want to look at their resume. They actually look at their taxes for the last few years to make sure they're not going to screw you and make sure they're not going to screw the bank. So it's actually a really good thing, but they're strict and they're not going to let like a little mom and pop kind of one-man show go and build this huge mansion for you. They're just not going to let them do it, right? Somebody who's a professional, who's got their crap together, who's got tax returns to show it, they're going to allow them to build it for you. So that's the third thing. Once you have that hard bid there, and then once you have those 3 things, then you say to the bank, hey, I got everything here, and you're kind of been going back and forth for months through this stuff. You submit everything in the bank and they say, okay, are you ready to order the appraisal? And you say, yeah, let's do it. Appraisals can be 5 to 10 grand roughly. And when you have your appraisal done, they're looking at multiple things here. They're looking at the real estate. What is the as complete value? That term is once the building is completed, 9 or 12 months from now, what will that value be? And they'll look at that based on comps, really. And so it's important to have this plan set done to be able to show them, here's what my mansions are going to look like. Have the renderings done, spend some money to making sure they know exactly what you're building, because if they assume that you're building some janky little thing, they're going to compare you against the not so nice properties. If you tell them you have the most badass custom mansion ever, they're going to give you a really high comp. So that's what we had, really high comps, because I spent time with that appraisal and I sat down with them and I walked through the plan and I showed them, here's what everything is. Here's what it looks like. Here's all the finished stuff. He's like, man, this is going to be amazing. I'm like, I know it is. It's going to be awesome. And so we had this really high appraisal. And I think it's really important that you do that. So they'll give you an appraisal on the real estate side. And then they'll also give you an appraisal on your future business. Even though you haven't started it yet, they're going to look at your pro forma and they're going to go through it, and they kind of just take averages. So honestly, our stuff is on the higher side as far as income and things like that. They're like, hey, Brett, let's bring you down a little bit. I don't know if you're going to come out of the gate at 10 grand a month. And I'm like, I promise you we are. We're doing it already in the city. They're like, oh, we'll bring it down a little bit. But so they take your numbers and then they look at the averages and you know what's common for the industry, and they look at comps and they do a market study, and they call all the existing facilities around. And honestly, I called them all prior to that, and I asked for their name and I asked for all the pricing, and I wrote it down I gave them a whole appraisal package, and I said, here's all the information, everything's done for you, right? And all they had to do was double check. I said, Aaron at such and such place said they're at $8,500 a month, and he's like, okay, cool, well. So you have these 4 things, and then you submit everything to the bank, and then it takes about 2 weeks to get a full hard like loan commitment from that point. And if they'll send you this formal loan commitment, prior to that, they've been sending you proposals. These are just like They're a proposal. There's a rough draft, right? Nothing official. Then they send you the official loan commitment, and then you have to sign it or not if you're going to accept it. If you do accept it, then it starts this clock. You have all this stuff you have to submit, and then it's about 6 weeks to close from that time. So let me back up one step here because we're talking about raising money a few minutes ago. And honestly, if you're going through all this and you're thinking, oh, this is so much work, this right here, all of this work is the reason why you get the investor. When you can sit down with them and you show, here's my blueprints, here's my plan, here's the rendering, here's what this mansion is going to look like. And then you say, hey, I already have my permits. It's all signed right here. And then you say, I have my hard bid, right? Here's my bid for my builder. It's $2 million to build this mansion. And then, by the way, here's my appraisal. The appraiser already said this mansion's worth $5 million as soon as it's built. We want to come in at 2 and it's going to be worth 5. From that perspective, it's a stinking no-brainer, right? But if you came and you said, hey, you know what? I have this idea about this property over here, and I think it'll cost, I don't know, 1 or 2 million, and I know, it's going to be worth more than that. I don't know what. No one's going to lend you money like that. But if you can say, here's the hard numbers, right? Everything is shovel ready. We're ready to go. And you have everything, then it makes the raising money part of this, the investor part of it, so much easier. So from that perspective, it's kind of chicken or egg, right? If you have the money ahead of time to take down the land, to spend some money on the architect and the stuff, get the stuff rolling, then it's easier to raise the money and you can actually kind of get your money back from that investor.